The firewood basket slipped from Margaret Brennan's hands. Not because of the cold, though God knows Montana in February could freeze your bones to solid ice, but because of what she saw through the trees. A man, chained, bleeding. Her first thought was simple and clear. This is how you die, Margaret. Walk away, go back to the cabin, lock the door, pretend you saw nothing. Her second thought was louder. Run. But her legs wouldn't move. Help. The word came out wet, gurgling. He was face down in the snow, arms stretched around a pine tree thick as a barrel. Heavy chains wrapped around his wrists. Industrial strength, the kind you'd use to secure a boat in a hurricane. His leather vest torn and covered in patches she didn't recognize was dark with blood. Too much blood. Margaret had seen enough death in 30 years working emergency rooms to know when someone was staring it down. This man was close. Very close. She should have turned around. Should have gotten back to her cabin, called Sheriff Bowman, let the professionals handle whatever mess this was. Instead, she took a step closer. Please, his voice cracked. Don't leave me. Something about those words hit her like a fist to the chest. The way he said leave. Like he'd been left before. Like he expected it. Like her son had sounded on that last phone call 6 years ago. Mom, I can't do this anymore. Margaret dropped to her knees in the snow beside the stranger. I'm here, she heard herself say. I'm here. His face turned toward her, one eye swollen completely shut, the other barely open. Blood crusted his beard. His lips were blue. You shouldn't. He tried to speak, coughed up red. They'll come back. Who will my brothers? The word brothers should have warned her, should have sent her running. But all she saw was a dying man. Can you move chains? She stood up, looked at the heavy links wrapped around the tree. Industrial strength, not the kind you cut with kitchen shears, not the kind that belonged anywhere near a human being. I have bolt cutters, she said. In my shed, no time. His good eye fixed on her with sudden intensity. They're coming back. To finish it. Finish what? The wind picked up howling through the trees. Snow began falling harder, erasing tracks, erasing evidence, erasing whatever had happened here. Listen to me very carefully. Margaret used the same voice she'd used in the ER for 3 decades. Calm, steady, authoritative. The voice that made trauma victims focus, made panicked families sit down, made young doctors stop shaking long enough to do their jobs. I'm going to get those cutters. I'm going to free you. Then we're going to my cabin. You understand? You don't know what you're doing. Probably not. But I'm not leaving you here to die. She ran. 72 years old, and she ran like she was 20 again. Boots slipping on ice breath, burning in her lungs, heart hammering against her ribs, hard enough to crack them. The shed was 50 yards behind her cabin. She grabbed the bolt cutters, a tarp, and the first aid kit she kept for emergencies. The kind of emergencies that involved chainsaws and axes, not human beings chained to trees. When she got back to him, he'd passed out. Hey, hey! She slapped his face lightly the way she'd done to 1,000 patients going into shock. Stay with me, his eye open. Margaret. She froze. How do you know my name? Mailbox. Saw it when they dragged me past. Right. Her mailbox at the end of the drive, a quarter-mile away. They dragged him through the woods, through the snow, left him to freeze to death like an animal. The bolt cutters barely made a dent in the first chain. She had to position them 3 times, her arthritic hands screaming before the link finally snapped. Hurry, he whispered. I'm trying. The second chain took longer. Her arms were shaking now from cold or fear or both. Then crack. The link gave way. He collapsed forward into the snow. Can you stand? Don't know. She got under his arm. He was massive, easily twice her weight, all muscle and leather and blood. Somehow they got him upright. He leaned on her so hard, she thought her knees would buckle, thought her spine would snap, thought they'd both go down together and freeze in the snow. My cabin. Half a mile. Can you make it? Have to. They stumbled through the trees. He was barely conscious, his weight pulling them down with every step. Blood dripped from somewhere onto the snow, leaving a trail. They'll follow that, Margaret thought. They'll know exactly where we went. But they kept moving. 20 minutes later, it felt like 20 hours. They reached her cabin. She got him through the door onto the couch. He was shivering violently now, teeth chattering, skin gray. Hypothermia, blood loss, probably internal injuries. She locked the door, drew the curtains, turned on every light in the cabin, then she got to work. His vest came off first, covered in patches. Hell's Angels. Montana, 1%. Her hand stopped. Hell's Angels. She'd lived in Montana long enough to know what that meant. The one percenters, the outlaw bikers, the men who made the news for things that kept normal people awake at night. And she just brought one into her home. Smart Margaret, she muttered to herself. Real smart. But there was no going back now. She cut away his shirt. His torso was covered in tattoos, military insignias, dates, names, a lot of names, and scars. Old ones crisscrossing his ribs, newer ones on his shoulders. The fresh wounds were deep, lacerations across his back. Someone had beaten him badly, methodically, with intention. She cleaned what she could, applied pressure to the worst bleeds, wrapped him in bandages and blankets. His pulse was weak but steady. He'd live. For now. Margaret sat back in her rocking chair, hands covered in his blood, and stared at him. What did I just do? She whispered to the empty room. The stranger slept for 14 hours straight. Margaret didn't sleep at all. She sat in her chair, her shotgun across her lap, watching the door, watching the windows, listening for engines, wondering when his brothers would come, wondering what she'd say when they did, wondering if she'd even get the chance to say anything before they killed her. Dawn came gray and cold. The storm had dumped another 8 inches overnight. Her driveway was completely snowed in. No one was getting up here until it cleared, which meant they were trapped together. Around 8 in the morning, the stranger stirred, his good eye open, found her in the chair. You're still here, he said, surprised. Where else would I be? Smart people run. I've never been accused of being smart. He tried to sit up, winced, fell back. How long? 14 hours. They didn't come. No, they will. Margaret set the shotgun aside. You want to tell me why you were chained to a tree? He was quiet for a long moment. Then I wouldn't kill someone. Who? A family? Witnesses? The club ordered the hit. I said no. The way he said it, flat, matter of fact, made it real. This wasn't a television show. This wasn't a movie. This was a man who'd been sentenced to death for refusing to murder innocent people. So they tried to kill you instead, Margaret said. They did kill me, just taking a while to finish. Not if I can help it. He looked at her like she'd said something in a foreign language. Why what? Why are you helping me? You don't know me. You know what I am. Margaret thought about that, about her son, about Garrett, who came back from Iraq so broken he couldn't look her in the eye, about how she'd tried everything to reach him to save him and failed, about the phone call that came 6 years after he got home. Ma'am, we're sorry to inform you. Because someone should have helped my son, Margaret said quietly, and no one did. Something changed in his face. The hardness cracked just for a second. What was his name? Garrett. Army Ranger. Iraq. I was in Iraq. I know. I saw your tattoos. He closed his eye. I'm sorry. Me too. They sat in silence for a moment. Then he said, my name's Cole Thaddeus Matthews, Margaret Brennan. I know. The mailbox. Right. Margaret. He struggled to sit up again. Managed it this time. You need to call the police. Turn me in. Why would I do that? Because I'm putting you in danger. When they find out you helped me, when they realize I'm alive, let me worry about that. You don't understand. These men don't care that you're an old woman. They don't care about anything except the club. If they think you know something, I don't know anything. You know I'm alive. That's enough. Margaret stood up, walked to the kitchen, put coffee on. Her hands were steadier now. You want some breakfast? Did you hear what I just said? I heard you. Coffee or no coffee, Margaret? Coffee or no coffee? He stared at her. Then incredibly the corner of his mouth twitched. Almost a smile. Coffee. She made eggs, toast, bacon. He ate like he hadn't seen food in days. He probably hadn't. Afterward, he tried to stand, made it halfway before his legs gave out. Margaret caught him, barely. Easy, I need to leave, before they track me here. You can't even walk. I'll figure it out. Sit down before you fall down. He sat, not because she told him to, Margaret thought, but because his body gave him no choice. The storm's getting worse, she said, looking out the window at the white wall of snow. Even if you could walk, you wouldn't make it a mile. Then I'm dead anyway. Not yet, you're not. He looked at her, really looked at her for the first time. You're serious. You're going to hide me. An outlaw biker, a member of Hell's Angels, in your cabin. That's right, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Probably, but it's my stupid thing. He shook his head slowly. You're going to get yourself killed. Wouldn't be the first time I've heard that. For the next 2 days, they settled into a strange routine. Cole slept most of the time, his body fighting off infection and exhaustion. When he was awake, he was quiet, watchful, always listening for engines. Margaret changed his bandages, made him eat forced antibiotics down his throat from her emergency medical supplies. The wounds were healing, slowly, but healing. You were a nurse, he said on the second day. Not a question. 30 years, ER. Figured you had the hands. Margaret looked down at her wrinkled, age-spotted hands. Not much left of them now. They saved my life. We'll see. That night, Margaret woke to screaming. She grabbed the shotgun, ran to the living room. Cole was on the couch, thrashing, eyes wide, but not seeing. No, no, get down, a nightmare, a bad one. She set the gun aside, knelt beside him. Cole, wake up. RPG, move, move. Cole. She grabbed his shoulders. You're safe. You're in Montana. You're with me. His eyes focused, found hers. For a moment, he didn't know where he was. Then reality crashed back. He sat up, breathing hard, covered in sweat. Sorry, he muttered. I'm sorry. Don't be. I woke you. I don't sleep much anymore anyway. He ran a hand through his hair. His hand was shaking. I haven't had one that bad in months. My son had them too, every night toward the end. Cole looked at her. How did he go pills? Too many. She said it matter-of-factly, like she'd said it 100 times, because she had. He couldn't make the nightmare stop, Margaret continued. So he stopped everything. Jesus, I used to wonder if I could have done something different, said something, seen something. But the truth is he was gone long before that night. Iraq took him. The VA failed him. And I wasn't enough. That's not your fault, I know. Took me years to believe it, but I know. They sat in the dark together. What did you see over there? Margaret asked quietly. He was quiet for so long, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then everything. Nothing. I don't know anymore. It all blurs together. The faces, the sounds, the heat, the smell. He paused. I came back and nobody understood. My family didn't understand. The government didn't care. So I found people who did understand. The club. Hell's Angels. Yeah, they got it. They got me. For a while that was enough. What changed? I did. Or maybe I just remembered who I used to be. Before. He looked at her. The family they wanted me to kill. The witnesses. It was a mom, a dad, 2 little girls. I watched them through the scope. The dad was teaching his daughter to ride a bike. She kept falling. He kept picking her up, telling her she could do it. His voice cracked. And I just couldn't. I radioed back, said I didn't have a shot. But they knew. Grim knew. Grim. Silas Hatcher. Grim's what everyone calls him. Club president. Cole shook his head. He's smart, colder than this storm. He doesn't tolerate weakness. And mercy, that's the worst weakness of all. So he ordered your death. Not directly. That's not how it works. He gave the order to handle it. 3 guys I'd called brothers for 5 years dragged me into the woods, beat the hell out of me, chained me up, left me to freeze, told me it was a mercy compared to what I deserved. Some mercy. Honestly, it was. They could have made it worse. A lot worse. The casual way he said it made Margaret's blood run cold. How long were you out there, she asked. Don't know, hours, maybe a day. I passed out. When I woke up, I heard you. Lucky. Or cursed, I don't know which yet. On the 3rd day, Cole was strong enough to walk. Not far, not well, but he could move. Margaret watched him shuffle around the cabin, testing his strength, checking the windows. You're healing fast, she said. Military training. We learned to push through. Or you're too stubborn to die, that too. He stopped at the window facing the driveway, stared out at the snow. What are you thinking, Margaret asked. I'm thinking they should have found us by now. Maybe they don't know where to look. They know, Grimm always knows. Then why haven't they come? That's what worries me. He turned to face her. Grimm doesn't rush. He plans. He waits. And when he moves, it's already over before you know it started. You're saying we're in more danger now than we were 3 days ago. I'm saying we were always in danger. We just don't know what shape it's taking yet. That afternoon, while Cole slept, Margaret went through his leather vest. She shouldn't have. It was an invasion of privacy. But she needed to understand what she was dealing with. The pockets held a wallet with no ID, $80 in a broken phone, and a small notebook. She opened the notebook, page after page of numbers, names, dates, locations. It looked like records, transactions. She flipped to the back, there in neat handwriting. If you're reading this, I'm probably dead. This is proof. Use it. TM. Find something interesting. Margaret jumped. Cole was standing in the doorway, leaning against the frame. I'm sorry, she said quickly. I shouldn't have. It's fine. You should know what you're protecting. What is this? Every illegal deal the club made in the last 3 years. Names, amounts, locations. Some of those names are politicians, police, judges. Margaret stared at the notebook. This could destroy them. That's the idea. Why didn't you use it? Why didn't you go to the police? Because I'm one of them. Or I was. And because half the cops in this state are on our payroll, I give this to the wrong person, it disappears. And so do I. So you kept it as insurance. I kept it as a guarantee. If they killed me, someone would find it eventually, and the club would burn. That's why they chained you in the woods, Margaret said slowly. Not just to kill you, to make sure this never surfaced. Probably. They're going to come for it. Yeah. And for me, because I have you. Yeah. Margaret closed the notebook, set it on the table, looked him in the eye. Good, she said. Good, I want them to come. Cole stared at her like she'd grown a second head. You want them to come. A 72-year-old woman wants 5 armed outlaw bikers to show up at her isolated cabin. That's right. Why? Because they murdered people. They terrorized communities. They corrupted officials. And they tried to kill you for having a conscience. Yes, I want them to come. Because we're going to end this. He shook his head, almost laughing. You're insane. My son used to say the same thing. Your son was right. Maybe. But I'm still here, and I'm not running. Something shifted in his expression. Respect maybe, or recognition? You remind me of my mom, he said quietly. Is that good or bad? She's dead. Cancer. 5 years ago. But before that, she never backed down from anything. Not my drunk father, not the bill collectors, not the repo men. She just kept fighting. Sounds like a strong woman. She was. Until the fight killed her. I'm sorry, me too. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Cole said, if we're doing this, if we're really doing this, we need a plan. I'm listening. First, we need to get that notebook to someone who can actually use it. Someone outside the club's reach. Who FBI? There's a field office in Billings. I know an agent there. Worked with him in Iraq. He's clean. Can we trust him? With my life. Already have, actually. Margaret thought about it. Okay. How do we get the notebook to him? We don't. Not yet. First, we need leverage, because the moment the club knows we're making a move, they'll scatter, destroy evidence, kill witnesses. We get one shot at this. So what do we do? Cole smiled. It was a cold, dangerous smile. The smile of a man who'd lived in darkness long enough to know how to fight in it. We make them think they've already won. The plan was simple and completely insane. Cole would contact the club, tell them he was ready to turn himself in, that he'd been hiding, but he was done running. In exchange for his life, he'd give them the notebook. The meeting would be public, neutral ground, somewhere they'd feel safe, and that's where they'd trap them. They'll never go for it, Margaret said. They will, because Grimm wants that notebook more than he wants me dead. Alive, I'm a traitor. Dead, I'm a martyr. But either way, if that notebook goes public, the whole operation collapses. What's to stop them from just taking it and killing you anyway? Nothing. That's where you come in, me. You're going to be our insurance, our witness, our backup. If something goes wrong, you make sure that notebook gets to the right people. And if something goes right, then we both walk away, and the club burns. It was a terrible plan. Full of holes, 1,000 things could go wrong. But it was the only plan they had. That night, Cole used Margaret's phone to make the call. She listened as he spoke in a language she barely understood. Biker code, club protocol, carefully chosen words that meant everything and nothing. When he hung up, his face was grim. It's set. Tomorrow night, the old sawmill off Highway 12. 9 p.m., they agreed. Grimm did. Personally, that's good, right? That's terrifying. Why? Because Grimm never handles things personally unless he's planning something big. Margaret didn't sleep that night either. She sat in her chair, shotgun in her lap, watching Cole sleep on the couch. Tomorrow they'd walk into hell together. And maybe, just maybe, they'd walk back out. But probably not. Morning came too fast. Margaret stood at the kitchen counter, hands wrapped around a coffee mug she wasn't drinking from. Through the window, she watched Cole splitting firewood in the yard, shirtless despite the cold, his breath coming out in white clouds, each swing of the axe precise and controlled. He was preparing, not the wood, himself. "You're going to freeze out there," she called from the doorway. He didn't stop. "I'm fine. That's what men always say right before they collapse." The axe came down, split the log clean through. "I need to feel something real, something I can control." She understood that. After Garrett died, she'd scrubbed the same kitchen floor 4 times in one day. Anything to keep moving, anything to avoid thinking. "How long do we have?" she asked. 12 hours, meetings at 9 tonight. "And you're sure Grimm will come?" "He'll come." Cole set down the axe, finally looked at her. "The question is, how many men he brings. Does it matter?" "It matters if you're planning to survive." Margaret stepped outside, closed the door behind her. The cold bit through her sweater immediately. "I stopped planning to survive a long time ago," she said. "Now I just plan to matter." That's a terrible philosophy. It's kept me alive this long. Cole pulled his shirt back on. His hands were shaking. Not from cold, from something else. Adrenaline, fear, both. "You can still back out," he said. "Give me the notebook. I'll go alone." "No." "Margaret." I said no. She moved closer. "You need someone watching your back. Someone they won't see coming. They'll kill you. They'll try." He stared at her, like he was trying to memorize her face. "Why are you doing this? Really?" She'd asked herself the same question 100 times since cutting those chains. The answer kept coming back the same. "Because I couldn't save my son," she said quietly. "But maybe I can save you." Something broke in his expression. "I'm not your son." "I know, but you could have been, should have been." And that's enough. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Cole nodded once. Sharp. Okay, then we do this together. Together. But we do it my way. You follow my lead, no matter what happens. Agreed. I mean it, Margaret. Things go sideways, you run. You don't look back. You get that notebook to the right people, and you never speak my name again. Things aren't going sideways. They always go sideways. At noon, they drove into town. The roads had been cleared overnight. Barely. Margaret's old pickup slid twice on black ice before they reached the main highway. Cole sat rigid in the passenger seat, baseball cap pulled low, eyes scanning every vehicle they passed. You expecting trouble, she asked. I always expect trouble. Must be exhausting. You get used to it. They parked 3 blocks from the post office. Cole stayed in the truck while Margaret went inside, heart hammering against her ribs. The clerk was Jenny Morrison, 63, divorced, 2 cats. They'd served together on the church fundraising committee 5 years ago. Margaret Brennan. Jenny said warmly, haven't seen you in months. How are you? Good. Busy. You know how it is. I really don't. My life is boring as dirt. Jenny laughed. What can I do for you? Margaret slid an envelope across the counter. It was addressed to Master Sergeant Franklin Rorick, Rorick House Veteran Center, Missoula, Montana. Inside was a letter she'd written at 3 in the morning, explaining everything, and a prepaid phone number where Dutch could reach them. Need this to go out today, Margaret said. Certified, signature required. Someone important, old friend, must be some friend if you're paying for overnight certified. He is. Jenny processed the envelope, printed the tracking label, sealed it. Should arrive tomorrow by noon. Perfect. Everything okay? Margaret? You seem tense, just tired, haven't been sleeping well. You and me both, Jenny handed her the receipt. Take care of yourself, you too. When Margaret got back to the truck, Cole was slumped lower in his seat, cap pulled even further down. That's when he said, one what? One person who saw us together. One person who can connect you to me if this goes bad. Jenny won't say anything. Everyone says something, eventually. They drove to the library next. The building was nearly empty. Just the librarian and 2 teenagers doing homework in the corner. Cole waited in the truck again while Margaret used the public computer. She opened a new email account under a fake name, sent a message to 3 Montana newspapers and 1 TV station. The subject line read, Hell's Angels corruption, evidence release if sender dies. The body of the email was simple. This is not a hoax. If you're reading this, someone has died trying to expose criminal activity by the Hell's Angels Motorcycle Club. Evidence has been delivered to FBI Special Agent in Billings. Demand answers. She scheduled the email to send automatically in 48 hours. Then she deleted the browser history. Logged out, walked back to the truck. Done, she said. Cole was staring at his hands. I used to think I was brave, he said. In Iraq, running missions, facing down insurgents. But this, he shook his head. This is the most scared I've ever been. Why? Because over there I knew the enemy. Here I'm the enemy. I'm the monster everyone warns their kids about. And now I'm asking you to trust me anyway. I do trust you. You shouldn't. Too late. They drove back toward the cabin in silence. Halfway there, Cole suddenly said, pull over. What? Why just pull over? She did. They were on a remote stretch of highway, nothing but forest on both sides. Cole got out, walked to the edge of the trees. Margaret followed. What's wrong? She asked. He was looking at something in the snow. Fresh tire tracks, multiple vehicles, motorcycles. They came here, he said quietly. Last night, while we were at the cabin. How do you know? See the tread pattern? That's a Harley. 3 of them. At least. He crouched down, studied the tracks. They stopped here. Split up. Some went toward town and others. He followed the tracks with his eyes. Others went toward your cabin. Margaret's blood went cold. Did they? No, the tracks lead away again. They were scouting, figuring out your routine, your blind spots. He stood up. They're planning something. What I don't know, but it's not the meeting tonight. That's just theater. The real play is something else. Should we call it off? No, that's exactly what they'd want. We call it off, we lose the initiative. We lose everything. Then what do we do? Cole was quiet for a long moment. Then we change the game. They think they're hunting us. We make them the prey instead. Back at the cabin, they worked fast. Cole drew a map of the sawmill from memory. Every building, every entrance, every place someone could hide. The main structure is 3 stories, he said, mostly collapsed, but the ground floor is still solid. That's where they'll want to meet, open space, multiple exits, easy to control. Where will they position their men? Here, he pointed to the 2nd floor, sniper nest, clear view of the whole area. And here, he circled a storage shed 50 yards away. Backup team, in case I run. What about Grim? He'll be front and center. That's his style. He wants me to see him when it happens. When what happens, when he decides whether I live or die. Margaret studied the map. You're expecting them to kill you, even if you give up the notebook. I'm expecting them to try. So how do we stop them? Cole smiled, that cold, dangerous smile again. We don't stop them. We outthink them. He outlined the plan. They'd arrive early, before the bikers. Cole would hide the real notebook in a location only Margaret knew. Then he'd take a fake notebook to the meeting. One that looked identical but was filled with useless information. When Grim realized he'd been played, he'd react, probably violently, and that's when help would arrive. Wait, Margaret said. What help? The letter you sent. I included details about the meeting. Time, location, everything. If Dutch is half the man I remember, he'll have people in place. You're gambling our lives on an if. I'm gambling our lives on a man who saved mine 3 times in Fallujah. If anyone's coming, it's him. And if he doesn't, then we improvise. At 6 o'clock, Margaret made dinner. Chicken soup, fresh bread, coffee, comfort food, last meal food. They ate in silence. Cole cleaned his plate, set down his spoon. Thank you, he said. For what? For this. For everything. For not giving up on me when you should have. I don't give up on people. I know, that's going to get you killed someday. Probably. But at least I'll die mattering. He laughed. A real laugh this time. Not bitter, you're something else, Margaret Brennan. So I've been told. At 7 o'clock, they started getting ready. Cole changed into his leather vest. Cleaned, mended, patches back in place. He looked like what he was. A biker. Dangerous. Hard. But Margaret saw past that now. Saw the scared kid underneath. The soldier who never came home. The man who'd chosen mercy over murder. You look good, she said. I look like a criminal. You look like someone worth saving. He met her eyes. I hope you're right. Margaret dressed in layers, thermal underwear, jeans, flannel shirt, heavy coat. She wasn't trying to look tough. She was trying to survive the cold. But she also strapped a knife to her ankle, loaded her revolver, tucked it into her coat pocket. Cole noticed. You know how to use that. I grew up in rural Montana. I was shooting before I could write my name. Good. Because if you have to draw it, don't hesitate. Don't warn them. Just shoot. I know. I mean it. These men won't give you a second chance. I understand. At 7:30, Cole's phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. Change of plans. Meet at 8. Come alone. Cole showed it to Margaret. They moved it up. They want me off balance. Are we still going? We have to, but we're leaving now. I want to get there first. They grabbed everything, the fake notebook, flashlights, the real notebook sealed in a waterproof bag, Margaret's shotgun, Cole's knife. Then they got in the truck and drove into the darkness. The sawmill was 30 miles west, deep in the mountains. The road was barely maintained, full of potholes and ice. It took 40 minutes to get there. They parked half a mile away, hiked the rest on foot through the trees. The sawmill loomed ahead, a skeleton of rusted metal and rotted wood, silhouetted against the night sky. No lights, no movement. Where do we hide the real notebook? Margaret whispered. Cole pointed to an old water tower 100 yards east. There, inside the base. They'll never think to look. How do you know? Because I used to hide things there when I was a prospect before I patched in. They moved quickly, quietly. Cole climbed inside the water tower, stashed the waterproof bag behind a loose panel, climbed back down. Done, he said. Now, no matter what happens, that notebook survives unless someone finds it. No one will. Not tonight. They circled back toward the sawmill, staying in the tree line. From there, they could see the entire clearing. What time is it? Cole asked. Margaret checked her watch. 7:55. They'll be here soon. As if on cue, headlights appeared on the access road. Motorcycles, 6 of them, engines rumbling like thunder. They pulled into the clearing, parked in a semicircle facing the sawmill entrance. The riders dismounted. Even from a distance, Margaret could tell they were dangerous. Big men, hard men, covered in leather and ink and scars. One of them stood out, older, thinner, wearing a black leather duster instead of a vest. That's, Cole whispered, the one in the coat. Margaret studied him. He didn't look like a monster. He looked like a tired, middle-aged man, which somehow made him more terrifying. What now? She asked. Now we wait. See if Dutch shows. They waited. 8 o'clock came and went. No FBI, no backup. 8:15, nothing. At 8:20, Grimm pulled out a phone, made a call, talked for 30 seconds, hung up. Then he turned to his men and said something Margaret couldn't hear. 2 of the bikers walked toward the sawmill, disappeared inside. They're setting up, Cole said. For what? An ambush. They're not here to talk. They're here to finish this. Then we need to leave. Now, not yet. Cole, not yet. At 8:25, another vehicle arrived. Not a motorcycle. A black SUV, blacked out windows, no plates. It parked behind the bikes, the doors open. 4 men got out. They weren't bikers. They wore suits, moved like professionals. Who are they? Margaret asked. Cole's face went pale. Feds. That's good, right? Help arrived. No. He was staring at the men. These aren't the good guys. These are... He trailed off, watching the men approach Grimm. Jesus Christ, what? They're with him, the club, and the feds. They're working together. Everything clicked into place. The reason Cole couldn't go to the police. The reason the club operated so openly. The reason Grimm wasn't afraid of the notebook. Because the people who were supposed to stop him were helping him. We need to go, Margaret said urgently. Right now. Wait. Look. One of the men in suits was talking to Grimm, showing him something on a tablet. Grimm looked at it, nodded, then pointed toward the forest, pointed exactly where Margaret and Cole were hiding. They know we're here, Cole said. How, I don't know, but we need to move now. They ran, not toward the truck. That direction was cut off. They ran deeper into the forest, away from the lights, away from the voices that were suddenly shouting behind them. They're in the trees. Cut them off. Don't let them reach the road. Branches whipped Margaret's face. Roots tried to trip her. Her lungs burned, but she kept running. Behind them, flashlights swept through the darkness. Engines roared to life. This way, Cole hissed, pulling her left. They crashed through undergrowth, splashed through a frozen creek, scrambled up an embankment. A gunshot cracked the night, then another. They're shooting at us, Margaret gasped. Keep moving. They ran for what felt like hours but was probably 10 minutes. Finally, Cole pulled her down behind a fallen log. Stay quiet, he whispered. They pressed themselves into the frozen ground, barely breathing. Flashlights swept overhead. Voices called out. They went north. Split up. Find them. The footsteps moved past, faded, disappeared. Margaret's heart was hammering so hard she thought it would explode. "What do we do now?" she whispered. "We survive the night. Then we figure out who betrayed us." The engine stopped a quarter mile away. Cole held up his hand, signaling Margaret to stay silent. Through the cracked window, they watched flashlight beams cutting through the trees. "How many?" Margaret whispered. "At least 4, maybe more." He moved away from the window. "They're doing a grid search, methodical, professional. The men in suits, has to be. Bikers don't search like that. They chase. These guys are hunting." Margaret's grip tightened on her revolver. "How long before they find us? An hour? Maybe less if they're good. Then we need to leave." "Can't. They've got the perimeter locked down. We move now, they'll hear us, see us. We're dead before we make it 50 yards. So we just wait here to die." Cole turned to face her. His expression was calm. Too calm. "No, we make them think we're somewhere else." He moved quickly through the abandoned hunting lodge, gathering anything flammable. Old newspapers, rotted curtains, broken furniture. He piled it all in the center of the main room. "What are you doing?" Margaret asked. "Creating a distraction." He pulled a lighter from his pocket. "When I light this, the whole place goes up. They'll think we're trapped inside. While they're focused on the fire, we slip out the back, head east through the creek bed. Water hides our tracks." "That's insane. You have a better idea." She didn't. Cole arranged the pile, making sure it would catch fast. Then he grabbed Margaret's arm. "When I say run, you run. Don't look back. Don't stop. No matter what you hear. What about you? I'll be right behind you." "Cole, trust me." He lit the pile. Flames caught immediately, spreading fast across the dried wooden paper. Within seconds, smoke filled the room. "Now," Cole hissed. They ran for the back door. Cole kicked it open. Cold air hit them like a wall. Behind them, the fire roared louder. Smoke poured through the broken windows. Shouts erupted from the forest. "Fire! The lodge is on fire. They're trying to burn evidence. Surround it. Don't let anyone out." Margaret and Cole sprinted into the darkness. Away from the voices, they hit the creek bed 30 seconds later, crashed through ice into freezing water. The cold was instant and brutal. Margaret gasped. "Keep moving," Cole urged. "Stay in the water." They waded downstream, water up to their knees. Every step agony. Behind them, the lodge was fully engulfed now, flames visible through the trees. More shouts, more engines. "Check the perimeter." They couldn't have gotten far, but they had. By the time the searchers realized the lodge was empty, Margaret and Cole were half a mile away. Climbing out of the creek, clothes frozen stiff. "We need to get warm." Margaret's teeth chattered, "or we'll die of exposure." "I know a place. Not far. Cave system about 2 miles northeast. Used to train there with the Rangers. Can you find it in the dark? I have to." They walked. Margaret lost feeling in her feet after 10 minutes. Her hands were numb. Her face burned from the cold. Cole wasn't much better. He was limping now, favoring his left side where the old injuries still hadn't fully healed. "How much further?" Margaret asked. "Close. That's what you said 20 minutes ago. This time I mean it." He was right. 10 minutes later, they found the cave entrance, a narrow opening between 2 boulders, barely visible unless you knew where to look. They squeezed inside. The cave opened into a larger chamber, protected from the wind. Not warm, but warmer than outside. Cole collapsed against the wall. Margaret fell beside him. For a long time, neither spoke. They just breathed. Survived. Finally, Cole said, "We can't keep doing this. Running, barely surviving. We need a real plan. A way to end this." "I thought the plan was Dutch." "Dutch is our insurance, but he's in Missoula. That's 3 hours away. And we're on foot, in winter, being hunted." He shook his head. "We need help sooner than that, from who everyone we trusted either sold us out or can't be reached." Cole was quiet. Then, "There's one person, maybe." "Who?" "Marcus Webb, former club member. Got out 5 years ago, lives in Helena now, runs a garage. Can we trust him?" "He testified against the club in a racketeering case." Lost 3 fingers for it. Cole held up his right hand, showing where his pinky and ring finger would be on someone else. So yeah, I think he'd be on our side. How do we reach him? We can't, not from here. We'd need a phone, Amar. Resources we don't have, Margaret thought about it. The fire lookout tower, 3 miles south. Forest Service maintains it year-round. There's supposed to be a radio. Emergency supplies, that's federal property. It'll be locked down. I used to volunteer for the Forest Service. I know the access codes. Cole looked at her. You're full of surprises. I've lived a long life. They rested for an hour, let their bodies warm up enough to function. Then they started moving again. The hike to the lookout tower took 90 minutes. By the time they arrived, dawn was breaking, gray and cold. But at least they could see. The tower stood 60 feet high, metal framework covered in ice. Margaret climbed first. Her hand slipped twice on the frozen ladder. Cole caught her both times. At the top, the door was locked. With a keypad, Margaret entered the code. It didn't work. They changed it, she said. Try another. She tried 3 more combinations. Nothing. Forget it, Cole said. Stand back. He kicked the door once, twice. On the third kick, the lock shattered. They stumbled inside. The cabin was small, maybe 10 by 10 feet, but it was intact. Supplies lined the walls. And there on the desk was a radio. Cole turned it on. Static filled the small space. This is emergency frequency, he said, adjusting the dial. Forest Service monitors it 24/7. Will they respond? They're supposed to, he pressed the transmit button. This is an emergency. Repeat. This is an emergency. 2 civilians in distress, approximately 20 miles west of Helena. We need immediate assistance. Over. Static, he tried again. Emergency. 2 civilians, 20 miles west of Helena. Please respond. Over. More static. Then finally a voice. This is Helena Forest Service Station. Identify yourself. Over. Relief flooded through Margaret. My name is Cole Matthews. I'm with Margaret Brennan. We're being pursued by armed men. The radio died. Just cut out completely. What happened? Margaret asked. Cole was staring at the radio. They cut the power. Someone cut the power remotely. How is that possible? It's not, unless he looked out the window. Unless they knew we were coming here. That's impossible. No one knew. Someone always knows. Before Margaret could respond, gunfire erupted from below. Bullets punched through the walls, through the windows, through the door. They hit the floor. How did they find us? Margaret shouted over the gunfire. I don't know. We need to get out of here. There's nowhere to go. We're 60 feet up. More bullets. The radio exploded. Supplies scattered. Glass rained down. Then the firing stopped. A voice called up from below. Cold? Controlled? Cole Matthews, we know you're up there. Come down. Hands up. Or we burn the tower with you in it. Margaret and Cole looked at each other. That's not, Grim Cole whispered. Who is it? I don't know. But he means it. Look. Through the shattered window, they saw men pouring gasoline around the base of the tower. We're going to die up here, Margaret said. Not yet. Cole was scanning the cabin. There has to be something. Emergency rappelling gear. Rope. Anything. Margaret crawled to a storage locker. Inside, Flair's first aid supplies, emergency blankets, and a coil of climbing rope with a harness. Here. Cole grabbed it. How much rope? 100 feet. Maybe more. That's enough. Barely. He secured the rope to the support beam, tossed the coil out the window opposite from where the men were gathering. You first, he said. I can't. You can. Clip the harness. I'll lower you down. Then you run. Don't wait for me. Just run. I'm not leaving you. Margaret, I said, I'm not leaving you. Smoke began rising from below. They'd lit the gasoline. Fine. We both go, but we go now. He helped her into the harness. Showed her how to grip the rope. Lean back. Let the rope take your weight. Walk down backwards. I'll be right behind you. What about the fire? We'll be faster than in the flames, hopefully. She climbed out the window, gripped the rope. It held. She started descending, hand over hand, step by step. The rope burned her palms, her shoulders screamed, but she kept moving. Halfway down, she heard Cole following above her. 20 feet from the ground, flames reached the tower supports. Heat radiated upward. 10 feet. The men spotted them, started running. Margaret hit the ground, unclipped, ran. Cole dropped beside her seconds later. They sprinted into the forest. Bullets chased them. Voices shouted, "This way." Cole pulled her left. They ran until their lungs gave out, collapsed behind a fallen tree. How Margaret gasped, "Do they keep finding us?" Cole was breathing hard. "I don't know. Unless he went very still, what?" He reached into his jacket, pulled out his wallet, opened it. Inside, between two bills, was a small black disc, barely bigger than a button. "GPS tracker," he said quietly. "They've been following us the whole time." "How did that get there, Grim?" "Grim must have planted it when they chained me up, in case I got away." He crushed the disc under his boot. "We're clear now, unless they already know where we are. They don't. This tracker just died. They'll lose the signal, but that means we need to move fast, put distance between us and the last ping." They moved. For the next 3 hours, they walked without stopping. No destination, just distance. Around noon, they found a gas station. Small, old, the kind that still had a payphone outside. "You have any change?" Cole asked. Margaret checked her pockets, found 2 quarters, enough for one call. "Make it count." She picked up the phone, dialed the number Garrett had made her memorize years ago, the number she'd never forgotten, even though she'd never used it. The line rang once, twice. Rorick. His voice hit her like a punch, gruff, solid, real. "Franklin Rorick, yeah. Who's this?" "My name is Margaret Brennan. I'm Garrett Brennan's mother." A pause. "Jesus." "Margaret, I remember. Garrett talked about you all the time. I'm so sorry for your loss." "Thank you. Listen, I don't have much time. Did you get an email from Cole Matthews?" Another pause. Longer this time. "Yeah, I got it. Watch the video." He exhaled slowly. "Jesus Christ, Margaret. Where are you?" "I don't know exactly. Somewhere near Helena. We're being hunted. We need help." "How many are after you?" "I don't know. A lot. They have resources, connections, federal agents working with them." "I believe it. That video, if half of what Matthews said is true, this goes all the way to the top." Dutch paused. "You need to disappear. Right now, I'll come get you. But I need a location." Margaret looked around, saw a sign, Murphy's Gas and Convenience. "Highway 12, mile marker 47. "Got it. Stay out of sight. I'll be there in 90 minutes. "Dutch, yeah. Garrett trusted you. So I'm trusting you now. Please don't let us down." "I won't. I promise." The line went dead. Margaret hung up, turned to Cole. "He's coming?" "How long? 90 minutes. That's a long time to stay hidden." "You have a better option." "No." They moved away from the gas station, into the trees, and waited. 70 minutes later, a truck pulled up. Not Dutch. 3 men got out. Not bikers, not feds. Civilians, but armed. "They're canvassing," Cole whispered. "Checking every location within a 50-mile radius. How did they know to come here? They're not stupid. They know we need help. Phone, car, food. They're checking every place we might go." The men went inside the gas station, came back out 5 minutes later, talked to the attendant, pointed in different directions. Then they got back in the truck and drove away. "That was close," Margaret breathed. "Too close." 20 minutes later, another vehicle arrived. This one was different. Older pickup, Montana plates, a sticker on the back window, "Support our troops." A man got out, late 50s, military haircut, scarred hands. "That's Dutch," Cole said. They emerged from the trees. Dutch saw them. "Move fast. Get in." Now, before someone else shows up, they climbed into the truck. Dutch pulled out immediately, drove fast but not recklessly. Did you watch the video, Cole asked? Every second, you named 17 dirty officials, 8 federal agents, and detailed enough criminal activity to put half the state in prison. Is it enough? It's enough, but getting it to the right people, that's the problem. Everyone you named has connections. They'll bury this before it sees daylight. Unless we go public, Margaret said. Dutch glanced at her in the rearview mirror. You're Garrett's mother. Yes, he used to say you were tougher than anyone he served with. Did he really say that word for word? Something warm bloomed in Margaret's chest. Pride, grief, love. So how do we go public? Cole asked. I know someone, investigative journalist, works for the Washington Post. She's done exposés on organized crime before. She's clean, she's protected, and she's hungry for a story like this. Can you reach her? Already did. Sent her the video an hour ago. She's flying into Missoula tonight. Wants to interview you both. Tonight. Tonight. Because by tomorrow we might all be dead. Dutch drove them to a safe house outside Missoula. Small cabin, remote, owned by a veteran Dutch trusted. You'll be safe here, Dutch said, for a few hours at least. Inside there was food, hot coffee, clean clothes. Margaret showered first. The water ran brown from dirt and blood. When she looked at herself in the mirror, she barely recognized the woman staring back. Older, harder, but still standing. When she came out, Cole was on the phone with Dutch, talking in low voices. He hung up, looked at her. The journalist's name is Rebecca Pritchard. She's bringing a camera crew, wants to film the interview tonight. Put it online immediately. Protect us through exposure. You think it'll work? I think it's our only shot. They ate, rested, waited. At 7 o'clock, headlights appeared outside. Dutch went out first, came back 5 minutes later with a woman in her 30s. Sharp eyes, carrying a laptop bag. Rebecca Pritchard, she said, shaking their hands. Thank you for trusting me with this. Did you watch the video, Margaret asked. 3 times. I've also verified several of Cole's claims through independent sources. This is real, and it's bigger than I imagined. She set up her equipment, camera, lights, microphone. I'm going to ask you questions, she said. Be honest, be detailed, don't hold back. The more evidence we have, the harder it is for them to silence you. The interview took 2 hours. Rebecca asked everything, names, dates, crime, evidence. Cole answered it all. Every question, every detail. Margaret filled in the gaps, told about finding him chained, hiding him, running with him. When they finished, Rebecca looked at them with something like awe. This is going to change everything, she said quietly. I'll have this online in 3 hours. Once it's out there, you'll be safe. They can't touch you without confirming everything you've said. And until then, Cole asked, until then you stay here. Door locked, gun loaded. Dutch will stand watch. She packed up her equipment, left. Dutch locked the door behind her. She's right, he said. 3 more hours. We can make it 3 hours. They tried to relax, but every sound made them jump. Every car that passed on the distant highway could be trouble. At 9:30, Dutch's phone rang. He answered, listened. His face went pale. When he paused. How many? He hung up. They found us. How, Margaret demanded. I don't know, but they're coming. 6 vehicles. E.T. 10 minutes. We need to run, Cole said. There's nowhere to run. They've got the roads blocked. Then we fight. With what, 3 pistols and a shotgun against 20 armed men, Cole was quiet for a moment. Then we do what we've been doing. We survive until the story breaks. Rebecca said 3 hours. We've made it 2.5. We just need 30 more minutes. 30 minutes is a lifetime when people are shooting at you. Then we better get creative. Dutch handed them weapons, checked his own. Margaret, you ever been in a firefight, number? Stay low. Don't waste bullets. Aim for center mass. And if they get inside, you run. You understand no heroics. Just run. I'm not leaving you two. You're not, Garrett Dutch said gently. I couldn't save him, but I can save you. So when I tell you to run, you run. Before Margaret could argue, engines roared outside. 6 vehicles, just like Dutch said. They surrounded the cabin, doors opened, men emerged, armed, organized. And leading them, illuminated in the headlights, was Silas Hatcher. Grim walked forward, stopped 50 feet from the cabin. Cole Matthews, he called out. I know you're in there. Come out. Let's end this. No one else needs to die. Cole looked at Dutch, at Margaret. He's lying. Of course he's lying, Dutch said. Question is, what do we do about it? Margaret moved to the window, looked out at Grim, at the men, at the weapons, and she made a decision. She opened the door. Margaret Cole grabbed for her, but she was already stepping outside. Margaret walked into the headlights, hands raised down. Behind her, she heard Cole cursing, heard Dutch trying to pull him back. But she kept walking until she stood 10 feet from Silas Hatcher. Up close, he was exactly what she'd expected. Cold eyes, patient smile. The kind of man who'd learned long ago that violence was just a tool, and he knew exactly when to use it. Mrs. Brennan Grimm said pleasantly, brave of you to come out, stupid more like, perhaps, but I appreciate it nonetheless. He gestured to his men. Lower your weapons. The lady's no threat. The guns dropped slightly. What do you want? Margaret asked. I want this to end peacefully. No more running. No more bloodshed. You chained a man to a tree and left him to die. Forgive me if I don't trust your definition of peaceful. Grimm's smile didn't waver. That was business. Nothing personal. Cole knew the rules when he joined. He broke them. There are consequences. He refused to murder children. He refused a direct order. In our world, that's the same thing. Your world is sick. My world keeps order, provides for families, protects territory. You think we're monsters, but we're just men doing what men have always done, surviving. Margaret took a step closer. My son was a man, a good man. He survived 2 tours in Iraq. You know what killed him, men like you. Men who told him violence was the answer. Men who made him believe he was broken beyond repair. Something flickered across Grimm's face. Not guilt, but something. Your son was Garrett Brennan. You knew him, I knew of him. We recruited him after he came back. He turned us down. Because he had a conscience. Because he was weak. And the weak don't survive in our world. The words were meant to hurt. They did. But Margaret had been hurting for 6 years. This was nothing new. You're right, she said, quietly. The weak don't survive. But you know what? Neither do cowards. And that's what you are, Silas Hatcher. A coward hiding behind guns and leather and loyalty that's bought with fear. The men around Grimm shifted uncomfortably. Hands moved toward weapons. But Grimm held up a hand. You're trying to provoke me. It won't work. I'm trying to tell you the truth. That notebook Cole kept, it's already out there, in the hands of people who matter. By morning, every name in it will be front-page news. You're finished, Grimm studied her. You're bluffing. Am I? Then why are you here? Why did you bring 20 men to a cabin in the middle of nowhere, unless you're terrified of 2 people who won't shut up? I'm here to contain a problem. You're here because you're losing control. And men like you can't stand that. Behind her, the cabin door opened. Cole stepped out, hands raised. Enough, he said. Leave her alone, Grimm. This is between us. Grimm's attention shifted. There he is, the righteous one, the hero. I'm not a hero, I'm just someone who's tired of killing. That's not what I heard. I heard you were quite effective in Iraq. 63 confirmed kills. They called you Ghost. That was a long time ago, was it? Or did you just forget who you really are? A killer. Like me. Like all of us. Cole walked forward until he stood beside Margaret. Maybe I was. Maybe part of me still is. But I'm trying to be something else now. There is nothing else. You think walking away changes what you've done, who you've hurt, the families you've destroyed. Grim shook his head. We're the same, you and me. The only difference is I've accepted it. No, the difference is I'm trying to be better. You're trying to justify being worse. For the first time, anger flashed in Grim's eyes. You self-righteous. A phone rang, loud, cutting through the tension. One of Grim's men answered, listened. His face went pale. Boss, you need to hear this. Grim took the phone, listened. His expression didn't change, but Margaret saw his jaw tighten. He hung up, looked at Cole. Congratulations, your journalist friend just posted the story. It's already spreading. Then you've lost, Cole said. Not yet. Grim paused. See, here's the problem with going public. Now everyone knows where you are, what you did. And some people who aren't part of my organization, they're very interested in making sure you never testify. What are you talking about? The federal agents I work with, they have friends, powerful friends, friends who don't appreciate being exposed. They're sending people here right now, professional people. And when they arrive, Mrs. Brennan, Mr. Matthews, and Mr. Rorick will disappear. No bodies, no evidence, just gone. You're lying, Margaret said. I wish I was, because honestly, I didn't want it to go this far. I just wanted the notebook, wanted this contained. But you had to be heroes. He gestured to his men. Pack up. We're leaving. What? One of the bikers stepped forward. We're just walking away. We're getting out before the real monsters arrive. I'm a criminal, but I'm not suicidal. Boss, that's an order. Move. The men hesitated, then obeyed. Within minutes, engines started. Vehicles pulled away. Grim was the last to leave. He looked at Cole one final time. I hope your conscience was worth it. Then he was gone. Silence fell. Dutch came out of the cabin, gun still raised. What the hell just happened? He ran, Cole said, but his voice was uncertain. Grim doesn't run, Margaret said. Unless he's scared, Dutch said. He said people were coming, professional people. He was trying to scare us. Was he? Margaret's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out. A text from an unknown number. Mrs. Brennan, my name is Victor Aldrich Nash. We need to talk. I have Rebecca Pritchard. If you want to see her alive, you'll bring me that notebook. 2 hours. Old sawmill. Cole knows where. Come alone or she dies. Margaret showed the text to Cole and Dutch. Cole's face went white. Nash. He's FBI. One of the names in the notebook. The trap, Dutch said quietly. This was always the trap. Margaret looked at both of them. Then we spring it. We're not going, Cole said flatly. It's a trap. Nash will kill all of us and take the notebook anyway. Then what do you suggest? Margaret asked. Let Rebecca die. She knew what she was getting into, did she? Or did she think we'd protect her? Dutch was pacing. There has to be another way. We go to the actual FBI, the clean ones, someone above Nash. And who do we trust? Cole asked. Half the bureaus on that list. We pick wrong, we're dead. Rebecca's dead, and the evidence disappears. Margaret sat down at the table, thinking. We need leverage, she said quietly. We don't have leverage. Nash has Rebecca. He has the power. No, we have something he wants more than her life. The notebook. Margaret looked up at them. But he doesn't know where it is. Only we do. That gives us time. And time gives us options. What options? Dutch asked. Margaret stood. I'm going to get that notebook. Right now. From the water tower. Then we're going to use it to save Rebecca and end this. Absolutely not, Cole said. You go alone, they'll kill you. They're going to try to kill me anyway. At least this way I control when and where. Dutch shook his head. This is suicide. Maybe. But I've had 72 good years. Rebecca's 34. She has decades ahead of her. I won't let her die because of me. Cole grabbed Margaret's shoulders. Listen to me. You are not expendable. You matter. Your life matters. I know. That's why I'm doing this. She gently removed his hands. You two are going to Missoula, to the airfield. Dutch, you said you knew someone with a plane? Yeah, Marcus Webb. Small Cessna. He owes me. Call him. Get that plane ready. I'll meet you there with the notebook. Then we fly straight to Washington, D.C., to Senator Williams. We hand her the evidence live on camera. They can't touch us once it's public like that. And what about Nash, Cole asked. What about the meeting at the sawmill? I'll handle Nash. How? Margaret picked up her revolver, checked the cylinder. By giving him exactly what he wants. Me. 2 hours later, Margaret stood alone in the clearing near the old water tower. The moon was high now, bright enough to see by, cold enough to freeze. She'd left Cole and Dutch an hour ago, made them promise to go to the airfield, made them promise to wait for her. But she knew she probably wasn't coming back. Margaret climbed into the base of the water tower, found the loose panel exactly where Cole had described. Behind it, the waterproof bag. Inside the notebook. She pulled it out, held it in her hands. This small thing, this collection of pages and ink, it had cost so much, so many lives, but it would save so many more. She sealed it back in the bag, tucked it into her coat. Then she heard footsteps behind her. She turned, hand moving toward her gun. A figure emerged from the shadows. Not Nash, not Grimm, Franklin Rourke, alive, standing there. Dutch Margaret's voice cracked. Hey, Margaret, he smiled weakly. Told you I'd protect you. How did you play dead? After you left, I doubled back, followed you here. You really think I'd let you do this alone? You should be at the airfield. I will be. After we finish this, You really think I'd let you walk into Nash's trap by yourself? Margaret felt tears burning her eyes. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We still have to get out of here. They started back toward the road, made it 50 yards. Then headlights appeared. 4 vehicles, surrounding them. Doors open. Men emerged, armed, professional. And leading them was someone Margaret recognized from the news. A face she'd seen 100 times. Special Agent Victor Aldrich Nash, FBI, one of the names in Cole's notebook. Mrs. Brennan, Mr. Rourke. Nash's voice was smooth, professional. You've led us on quite a chase. He smiled. It was friendly, warm, completely terrifying. Now I believe you have something that belongs to us. Margaret's hand stayed on the gun in her pocket. Dutch shifted beside her, wounded shoulder bleeding fresh through his shirt. Agent Nash, Dutch said carefully. Didn't expect to see you here, I imagine not. But here we are. Nash took a step closer. His men fanned out. Weapons ready but not raised. Professional, controlled. You've caused quite a mess, Mr. Rourke. 3 million views. Senate inquiries. My phone hasn't stopped ringing. Good. Is it? Because from where I stand, you've just painted targets on your backs. And on the backs of everyone who helped you. We're already targets. True, but there's a difference between being hunted and being extinct. Margaret stepped forward. You want the notebook? Take it. She pulled the waterproof bag from her coat, held it out. Nash looked at it, then at her. You're willing to trade it? Just like that, yes. Why? Because Rebecca Pritchard is innocent. She was just doing her bum. Let her go. Nash studied Margaret for a long moment. You know I'm going to kill you anyway. All of you. Probably. But at least Rebecca lives. Nash smiled. You're a remarkable woman, Mrs. Brennan. Truly. But you're also incredibly naive. He gestured to one of his men. The man walked to a black SUV, opened the back door. Rebecca stumbled out, hands zip-tied, mouth gagged, but alive. See, Nash said, I'm not a monster. I keep my word. Then let her go. Nash pulled out a knife, walked to Rebecca, cut her zip ties, removed the gag. You're free to go, Miss Pritchard. Rebecca looked at Margaret, at Dutch, confusion and fear in her eyes. Go, Margaret said gently. It's okay. Rebecca hesitated, then ran toward the trees. Nash didn't stop her. He turned back to Margaret. Now, the notebook. Margaret handed it over. Nash opened the bag, pulled out the notebook, flipped through the pages. His expression changed. This is blank. What? Every page. It's blank. He looked up at Margaret. Where is the real notebook? Margaret smiled. Somewhere you'll never find it. Nash's face went cold. You just killed yourself. Maybe. But I bought time. For what? For the people who matter to get away. Nash raised his gun, pointed it at Margaret's head. I'm going to ask you one more time. Where is the notebook I told you? Somewhere safe. Then you're no use to me. His finger tightened on the trigger. Wait, the voice came from the trees. Cole Matthews stepped into the clearing, hands raised, the real notebook in his right hand. Let them go, Cole said. I'll give you the real one. Nash kept his gun on Margaret. Why should I trust you? Because if you kill them, I burn this notebook right here, right now, and all your secrets go public anyway. Cole pulled out a lighter with his other hand. I've got nothing left to lose. Do you? Nash lowered his gun slowly. You'd really destroy it. You're only leverage in a heartbeat if it means they live. Nash considered this. Fine, put the notebook on the ground. Step back. They walk away. You stay. Cole looked at Margaret. I'm sorry, he said quietly, but this is how it has to be. No, Margaret said. Cole, don't. He placed the notebook on the ground. Step back. It's done, he said to Nash. Let them go. Nash gestured to his men. Let them pass. Dutch grabbed Margaret's arm. Come on, we have to go. No, I'm not leaving him. Margaret, Dutch's voice was firm. If we stay, we all die. If we go, we can get help. There is no help. There's always help. We just have to live long enough to find it. He pulled her toward the trees. Margaret looked back at Cole. He smiled at her. That same cold, dangerous smile. Go, he said, and make it matter. They ran. Behind them, Nash was opening the notebook. Checking pages. It's real, one of his men said. Nash nodded. Good. He looked at Cole. You could have run, could have saved yourself. I'm tired of running. Noble, stupid, but noble. Nash raised his gun again. Then engines roared from the access road. Not motorcycles, not SUVs, these federal vehicles. Real ones. Dozens of them. Leading them a woman in her 60s, silver hair, confident stride, Senator Diane Williams. She walked into the clearing, flanked by U.S. Marshals. Agent Nash, she called out. Step away from that man. Nash froze. Senator Williams, this is a federal operation. No, this is a crime scene, and you're under arrest. On what grounds? Conspiracy, racketeering, corruption, obstruction of justice? The list goes on. She held up a tablet. I've been watching this entire exchange. Live feed from Miss Pritchard's phone. She was recording everything. Nash's face went white. That's not possible, isn't it? You searched her, but you didn't check her shoe. Rebecca stepped out from behind a federal vehicle, holding her phone. I streamed it all, she said. 7 million people watching live, including Senator Williams. Nash looked around, trapped. His men were already lowering their weapons. U.S. Marshals moving in. You can't prove anything, Nash said. Can I? Williams walked to Cole, picked up the notebook. This is all the proof I need. Every transaction, every name, every dirty secret you've been protecting. She looked at Nash. It's over. Nash lunged for his gun. He didn't make it. 3 marshals tackled him. Within seconds, he was on the ground. Cuffed, Williams turned to Cole. Mr. Matthews, you're incredibly brave and incredibly stupid, I've been told. Where's Mrs. Brennan? Cole looked toward the trees. Safe, I hope. Let's make sure. Margaret and Dutch were 100 yards into the forest when they heard the commotion behind them. Sirens, shouts, but not gunfire. They stopped. Something's wrong, Margaret said. Or something's right. They turned back. By the time they reached the clearing, Nash and 12 of his men were in custody, federal vehicles everywhere, marshals securing the scene. And standing in the middle of it all, unharmed, was Cole. Margaret ran to him. "You're alive, barely." He looked past her at Senator Williams. "Senator, wasn't sure you'd make it in time." "I almost didn't." Williams walked over. "But Miss Pritchard's live stream helped. Once we knew where you were, we moved fast." She held up the notebook. "This is real every page. Then we have work to do." Williams turned to her team. "I want every name in this book investigated, every transaction traced, every official implicated brought in for questioning. We're cleaning house, starting tonight." She looked at Margaret, Cole, and Dutch. "As for you three, you're going into protective custody, at least until the trials." "How long?" Margaret asked. "Months, maybe a year. These cases are complex. And after you're free, new identities if you want them, or go back to your lives. Choice is yours." Margaret looked at Cole. "What do you think? I think I'm tired of running." "Me too." 4 months later, Margaret stood in a federal courtroom in Helena, Montana. The building was massive, all marble and wood in the weight of justice. She'd been here before during pretrial hearings, but today was different. Today was the verdict. She testified for 6 hours over 2 days. The prosecutor had been gentle but thorough. The defense attorneys had been ruthless. They tried to paint her as a confused old woman, a vigilante, someone who'd broken the law by harboring a fugitive. But the jury had seen through it. They'd seen the evidence, the notebook, the video Cole had recorded, Rebecca's live stream, the testimonies of 17 defendants who'd made deals to testify against the others. And they'd seen Margaret herself, 72 years old, standing in front of them with her head held high, telling the truth. Now she sat in the gallery, Cole on her left, Dutch on her right, Rebecca behind them with her notebook still covering the story. The jury filed in, 12 faces, some young, some old, all serious. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" the judge asked. "We have, Your Honor." The foreperson stood, a woman in her 40s. School teacher Margaret had learned during jury selection. In the matter of the United States versus Silas Hatcher on the charge of racketeering, how do you find guilty? Margaret felt Cole tense beside her. On the charge of conspiracy to commit murder, guilty. On the charge of corruption of public officials, guilty. The list went on, 17 charges, 17 guilty verdicts. Then they moved to the next defendant, Victor Aldrich Nash, guilty on all counts. Then the next, and the next. 8 FBI agents, 5 judges, 4 politicians, 3 police chiefs, all guilty. When it was over, when the last verdict had been read, the courtroom erupted. Some people cheered, others wept. The defendants sat stone-faced or slumped in defeat. Silas Hatcher stared straight ahead. His face showed nothing. But Margaret saw his hands, clenched so tight his knuckles were white. Victor Nash closed his eyes, like he was praying, or just trying to disappear. The judge banged his gavel. "Order, order in this court." The room quieted. "Sentencing will be held in 30 days, the judge said. Until then, all defendants will remain in federal custody without bail. This court is adjourned." Another bang of the gavel. It was over. Margaret stood. Her legs felt weak. Cole steadied her. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah, I think so." They filed out of the courtroom. The hallway was packed with reporters, cameras, microphones shoved in their faces. "Mrs. Brennan, how do you feel about the verdict, Mr. Matthews? Do you have any regrets, Mr. Rorick? What's next for you?" "No comment," Dutch said, pushing through the crowd. They made it outside. The steps of the courthouse were crowded, but the air was fresh, cold, real. Margaret took a deep breath. "It's really over," she said. "Not yet," Cole said. "Sentencing is in 30 days. But it's over. The hard part." Rebecca appeared beside them. "Can I get a statement?" "For the record," Margaret looked at her. "The woman who'd risked everything to tell their story. What do you want me to say? Whatever you're feeling." Margaret thought about it. "I'm tired," she said. "I'm relieved. And I'm grateful. Grateful to everyone who believed us, who fought for the truth, who didn't give up. She paused. But mostly I'm thinking about my son, about Garrett, about how he never got his day in court, never got justice, and I'm hoping that somehow wherever he is, he knows that someone fought for him. Even if it was too late, her voice cracked. I couldn't save him, but maybe I saved someone else, and maybe that's enough. Rebecca lowered her pen. Thank you, she said quietly. They walked to Dutch's truck in silence. Got room for three, Dutch asked. Always, Margaret said. They drove back to Missoula, to the safe house where they had been staying. It wasn't home, but it was safe. Inside, Dutch made coffee. Cole built a fire. Margaret sat on the couch and stared at the flames. What are you thinking, Cole asked. I'm thinking about what comes next. Senator Williams said we could go home, get new identities, start over. Do you want to start over? Margaret considered that. I don't know. Part of me wants to go back to my cabin, back to the quiet, back to the life I had before all this. And the other part knows I can't go back because I'm not the same person anymore. None of us are, Dutch said. They sat in silence for a while. Then Cole said, I don't have anywhere to go. What about family? He shook his head. Burned those bridges a long time ago, before the club, before everything. You could come to Montana, Margaret said, to my cabin. Cole looked at her. You mean that I wouldn't say it if I didn't? What would I do there? Help rebuild, chop wood, fix things, be useful. You sure you want an ex-biker living with you? I'm sure I want you living with me. The biker part is just details. Dutch smiled. Garrett would have liked him, you know. Margaret looked at Dutch. You think so, I know so. Cole's got the same stubborn streak, the same need to do right even when it's hard. She felt tears in her eyes. Yeah, he would have. 30 days later, they returned to the courthouse for sentencing. The judge took his time, read each defendant's crimes, heard from victims, listened to impact statements. Then he handed down sentences. Silas Hatcher, life in prison without the possibility of parole. Victor Nash, 35 years. The others received between 15 and 30 years depending on their crimes and cooperation. When it was done, Margaret stood one last time. The prosecutor had asked if she wanted to make a victim impact statement. She declined during the trial, but now with everything finished, she changed her mind. Your Honor, she said, may I speak? The judge looked surprised. Of course, Mrs. Brennan. She walked to the front of the courtroom, faced the defendants. I'm not here to tell you that you're monsters, she said, or that you deserve to rot. Other people have said that, and maybe it's true. She paused. I'm here to tell you that you had a choice. Every single one of you. At some point, you chose power over people, money over morality, fear over fairness. She looked at Silas Hatcher. You chose to order the death of innocent people. You chose to corrupt good men. You chose to build an empire on suffering. Then at Victor Nash, and you chose to betray your oath, to use your badge as a weapon, to protect criminals instead of stopping them. Her voice was steady, strong. My son came home from war broken. He needed help. He needed someone to tell him he mattered. He needed someone to fight for him. But no one did, because men like you convinced him the world was too corrupt to fix. That violence was the only answer. That mercy was weakness. She felt tears on her cheeks, but didn't wipe them away. So he gave up, and he died. And I've spent 6 years wishing I could have saved him. She looked at each defendant. But I can't change the past. All I can do is try to change the future, so that other mothers don't lose their sons, so that other families don't get destroyed, so that mercy becomes strength instead of weakness. She turned to the judge. That's all I wanted to say. Your Honor, thank you. She walked back to her seat. The courtroom was silent. Even the defendants looked shaken. The judge cleared his throat. Thank you, Mrs. Brennan. That was very powerful. He looked at the defendants. I hope you were listening, because that woman just showed more courage and grace than any of you ever did. He banged his gavel. We're adjourned. 6 months after the trial, Margaret stood in a cemetery in Billings, Montana. It was a Sunday morning in early December. The first snow of the season had fallen overnight, covering the ground in a blanket of white. She held fresh flowers, daisies, Garrett's favorite. Cole stood beside her. Dutch had come too, and Rebecca. They approached the grave together. The headstone was simple, gray granite, clean lines. Garrett Andrew Brennan, U.S. Army Ranger, Iraq, 2007 to 2009. Beloved son. But there was something new carved beneath Garrett's name. Margaret had commissioned it 3 months ago, after the sentencing, after everything was finally truly over. The new inscription read, "He lived, he fought, he mattered." This stone honors him. His mother finally fought back. Margaret knelt in the snow, placed the daisies at the base of the stone. "Hey, baby," she whispered. "I'm sorry it's been so long." She touched the cold granite. "I did it. I fought back just like you always wanted me to, just like I should have done for you." Her voice broke. "I know it's too late. I know I can't bring you back. But I hope wherever you are, you're proud of your old mom." The wind rustled through the bare trees, soft, gentle. Cole knelt beside her, placed his hand on the stone. "I didn't know you, Garrett," he said quietly. "But your mom saved my life, and in doing that, she saved a lot of other lives too." He paused. "I promise I'll take care of her. I promise I'll make sure your sacrifice meant something." Dutch stepped forward next. "Hey, kid, miss you every day, but your mom is one hell of a fighter. You'd be real proud." Rebecca was last. "I never met you, Garrett, but I told your story, and millions of people heard it. Your name will be remembered." They stood there for a long time. 4 people who'd been brought together by tragedy, by violence, by the fight for justice. Well, finally Margaret stood. "Ready to go home?" Cole asked. "Yeah, I'm ready." They walked back to the truck together. But Margaret looked back one more time. "I love you, baby," she whispered. And for just a moment, she felt something. A warmth, a presence, a peace she hadn't felt in 6 years. Garrett was okay, and so was she. The cabin in Montana looked different when they arrived 2 hours later. Cole had been working on it for months, fixing the porch, replacing rotted boards, sealing windows, chopping enough firewood to last through winter. It looked cared for, loved, like a home. Dutch stayed for dinner. They cooked together, laughed, told stories. When he left, Margaret and Cole sat on the porch despite the cold, watching the sun set over the mountains. "This is good," Cole said quietly. "What is?" "This, us, being alive." Margaret smiled. "Yeah, it is." In the distance, a wolf howled. The sound echoed through the valley, wild and free, just like them. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For giving me a reason to fight." Cole looked at her. "You gave me a reason to live." They sat in comfortable silence as the stars came out, one by one, filling the sky with light. Margaret thought about all the people she'd lost. Garrett, the friends who'd fallen, the innocents who'd died. But she also thought about all the people she'd saved. Rebecca, Cole, Dutch, and countless others who'd never know her name but were safer because of what she'd done. Was it worth it? The pain, the fear, the near-death experiences. She looked at Cole, at the peace in his eyes, the hope. Yes, she thought, it was worth it. Because in the end, that's all any of us can do. Fight for what's right, protect those who can't protect themselves, and hope that when our time comes, we've left the world a little better than we found it. Margaret had done that, and she'd do it again in a heartbeat. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of pine and snow. Cole squeezed her hand. "Come on," he said. "Let's go inside. I'll make dinner." "What are we having?" "Whatever I can find in the pantry." She laughed, a real laugh, the kind she hadn't heard from herself in years. They went inside together. The door closed behind them. The lights glowed warm through the windows. Margaret Brennan had cut those chains 6 months ago, and in doing so, she'd freed herself too, from guilt, from grief, from the belief that her life no longer mattered. She mattered. She always had. The fire crackled in the hearth. Cole poured 2 mugs of coffee, handed one to Margaret. She wrapped her hands around the warm ceramic, felt the heat seep into her bones. 6 years, she said quietly. 6 years I've been dead inside, walking, breathing, but not living. Cole sat down beside her. And now, oh, I'm alive, really alive, for the first time since Garrett died. She looked at the framed photo on the mantel. Garrett in his ranger uniform, 23 years old, smiling that crooked smile she'd loved so much. I couldn't save you, son, she whispered, but I saved someone else. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's what you would have wanted. The wind outside answered with a soft howl, like permission, like peace. Margaret turned to Cole. Tell me about your mother. Cole smiled, sat down beside her. Her name was Sarah, Sarah Matthews. She used to say that being strong didn't mean never falling down. It meant getting back up every single time. Sounds like a wise woman. She was, raised me and my 2 brothers on her own after Dad left. Worked 3 months, never complained, just kept pushing forward. His voice got quieter. When I joined the Army, she was so proud. When I came back and joined the club, she was heartbroken. Last thing she said to me before the cancer took her was, "You're better than this, Cole. You've just forgotten." And did you forget for a while? Yeah. But then I remembered, in that clearing, when Grim told me to put a bullet in that little girl's head. He paused. I saw my mom, clear as day, standing right there, shaking her head, and I knew I couldn't do it. Margaret reached over, took his hand. She'd be proud of you now. I hope so. They talked until midnight, about mothers and sons, about wars that never really end, about finding family in the strangest places, about Garrett's last phone call, the one Margaret had never told anyone about. He called me at 2 in the morning, she said, 3 days before he died. He was drunk or high. I couldn't tell. What did he say? He said, "Mom, I can't make it. Stop. The noise in my head, the faces, the guilt. I've tried everything. Nothing works." Her voice cracked, and I didn't know what to say. I told him to go to the VA, to talk to someone, to come home, but he didn't. No, he said, "I love you, Mom. I'm sorry I'm such a disappointment." Then he hung up. She wiped her eyes. That was the last time I heard his voice. Cole was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "You know what I think? What? I think he called you because he wanted to hear your voice one more time. Because you were the only person who never gave up on him. The only person who saw him as more than broken." Margaret looked at him. "You think so, I know so. Because I've been where he was, in that dark place where everything hurts and nothing makes sense. And the only reason I'm still here is because you didn't give up on me either." He squeezed her hand. "You save people, Margaret. That's what you do. Not because you're trying to fix the past, but because it's who you are." She felt tears on her cheeks again, but this time they weren't sad. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what? For being here. For giving me a second chance at family. You gave me a second chance at life. I think we're even." They sat in comfortable silence as the fire burned low. Outside, the snow fell heavier now, blanketing the valley in white. Tomorrow, they'd chop wood, fix the fence, drive into town for supplies. Tomorrow, they'd live. But tonight, they rested. In a cabin that had seen so much darkness, there was finally light. Margaret Brennan had cut those chains. And in saving Cole Matthews, she'd saved herself. Not from death, but from the slow dying that comes when you stop believing you matter. She mattered. He mattered. They all mattered. And that truth, simple and profound, was worth every mile they'd run, every bullet they'd dodged, every moment they'd faced death. Because mercy, it turned out, was stronger than fear. Love was stronger than hate. And one 72-year-old woman with bowl cutters could change the world, one chain at a time.